I feel bad for innocent people who don't have money, man. For people who are impoverished and they just don't have money and they don't have access to resources and tools that can be used to increase one's economic situation, advance one's economic situation, help someone out financially. I'm driving, multitasking, so for lack of better phraseology there, verbiage, vocabulary, I'm just saying, like, I feel bad for people who don't have the financial resources with which to obtain whatever they need in life, man. Like, whatever it is that a person needs, if they don't have the money with in which to obtain whatever it is that they need, man. And then on top of that, it's the people who live in abject poverty, who are ignorant to the facts of reality, man. They're bombarded with a deluge of brainwash media, assuming that they have at least like a TV set. If they're in the public school system, they're watching something, on a television set, or listening to like radio in someone's car at home, or maybe they have like a radio at home. Because what you find, man, is that in different communities where people are impoverished, the one thing that they oftentimes do have is a television. I know you're probably like, well, growth. Do they need a television? And and I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe for like local news, weather, just what's going on in the local community information, nation, state, and national information, and what's going on outside the country. I mean, those are basic things, I consider those things a necessity, basic information. But here's the problem. I'm not talking about someone having cable who's poor. It's not what we're talking about. So let's be clear about that. I'm talking about people who are impoverished and they don't have cable. They just have a TV with the basic stations. The basic local stations when you plug in the TV and you've got the fucking antenna. So, the sad thing is, man, people are brainwashed. If they watch any of the different stations on TV where there are advertisements, they're being subliminally programmed, man. They're being subliminally programmed. And it's really sad, man, when people have to listen to shit like CNN. And it's because they believe. Like when I was a kid, I believed that CNN was a news organization. I literally thought CNN was an actual news organization. It wasn't until I was an adult that I figured it out that it's a George Soros made up construct, that it's an artificial network, that it's a synthetic, it's a synthesized brainwash operation, that it's not for real, and it's all psychological operations warfare, psyop, psywar. Who's behind the CNN entity? I just told you. People like George Soros and all of the different mega elites with ultra deep pockets to finance international broadcast networks of a brainwash nature. So you can look at who they are on the list of the left, whoever's on the left, multi-billionaires like George Soros, fucking enemies of America, like the New York Times. I used to think that the New York Times was a legitimate, actual newspaper until I grew up and I found out that it's all a lie and it's all a fake, made-up, fabricated construct. Yep. certainly is. I actually thought that the Washington Post, because when I was a kid, looking at TV, being partially brainwashed at the time, I before I deprogrammed and reprogrammed my own mind to become what I am now, which is one Sir Grove, defender, protector of fellow Americans against all tyranny and foreign and domestic tyrannical wannabe enemies. I used to see TV shows and movies of Washington, D.C., and then I heard about this, air quotes, newspaper called the Washington Post, and I thought, oh my, that's in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. That's a serious fucking newspaper. Man, that's incredible. Those people are probably really nice people. They're probably really astute, very scholarly, and, well, I hold them in high regard. I love the Washington Post. Right down the street from the White House. They must be amazing, is what I used to think. Until I found out the truth. That they're not even fucking for real. They're just synthetics. Artificial constructs. All fabricated like fabric. Totally contrived. Totally fucking false data. All made up. Thought the same thing about New York, Empire State, Big Apple, right here. Right here, baby. Yes, sirree, Bob. Used to think that the New York fucking Times was a real newspaper. When I was a kid, watching Sesame Street, thinking about New York, the Empire fucking State Building, I was like, man, New York Times, man, just like the Washington fucking Post. That's got to be an incredible organization to be part of. Fine writers, super journalists, like Clark Kent type shit. Now, I know, he wasn't with, the Washington, the New York Times. I know. But I'm saying, on that order of magnitude, of grandiose, is what I thought. As it turns out, it's unreal. Not even a real newspaper. Totally fucking made up. Totally non-existent in terms of it not actually being a real news company. Publishing company. Newspaper organization. No, it's just an evil entity spawned from the devil, evil, the abyss. Yeah, the likes of George Soros. Yeah, I'm going to keep mentioning his name because he's an enemy of the United States. And he's behind a lot of nefarious shit, a lot of malevolent shit in America. He's one of the puppet masters pulling the strings of the socialist Dems, the nutty, cuckoo, nut job, wackadoo, fucking left. Yep, George Soros, enemy of America, enemy of the United States. Multi-billionaire, self-hating, enemy of America. Fucking piece of shit. He is indeed. Yeah, I used to believe, man, that organizations like the New York Times, CNN, and Washington Post were actually fucking for real. Until I found out that they're not even close. Nope. They're just there to attack America, to encroach, to be used as propaganda machines, vessels of propaganda, instruments of domestic terrorism, instruments of meddling in society, culture, global affairs, state, local, national, international, stirring up fucking trouble, causing fucking problems. creating false narratives, piping out, broadcasting, emanating, disseminating apocryphal, fallacious, egregious information. That is disinformation, misinformation. Yeah, one day, man, it was just clear. It was just crystal clear to me. Like when Rowdy Piper puts on those glasses, man, those fucking sunglasses, and he sees it for what it is. Yeah. One Sir Grove knows